Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Ball is Round. I'm Hady Raphael, and tonight on the show, disappointing loss at home versus Atlanta United, end of year presser for CF Montreal, and big decisions to take during the off seasons. And finally, Canadian women's national team gets a draw from world champions Spain. That and a lot more on episode 201, sorry, as the ball is of the ball is round. And I'm joined tonight by my two good friends, my colleagues, my great podcaster co-hosts of The Ball is Round, Elias Gregoriades. Say, Elias, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm
I
doing
know
wonderful.
Barcelona won
I don't know.
4-0 in
They did?
Madrid.
Oh my god. I had no
Someone's
idea.
happy. Someone's
I'm
happy.
doing great.
And Andy Coronado, how are you, my man?
Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. What the hell am I supposed to do till February when we start again? There's nothing to do. We've been
Nah,
doused with so much soccer the past few months that Tuesday soccer after Saturday soccer, Wednesdays. I don't know what to do with my Wednesday nights anymore. I guess
but
I'm just
there's a
gonna have to be a
lot to
regular
do.
human being for the rest
Nah,
of the
there's
month.
a lot to do. There's a lot of new dates now during the off season, and we'll talk about that a bit
You sound like
later.
my
There
wife,
are
buddy.
decisions to be taken. You can spend a lot of time with your wife, and your wife is going to be
Ah,
happy. And yeah, that's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. As for me, I'm kind of okay. So let's not talk about European soccer for today. So moving on. Let's start first.
Hey, he'll be the first one to yell at the sky when Marseille has a good day, huh? But
Whoo, never heard of them. So let's start first about CF Montreal, of course. Play in for CF Montreal at home at Stade Saputo last Tuesday. CF Montreal hosting Atlanta United. Joseph Martinez playing against his former club. George Campbell playing against his former club. Um, Honestly, before we even start analyzing the game, guys, I'm going to ask you a question. Were you expecting to lose? Because honestly, I wasn't at all. I'm I was sure we were going to win that game. Andy.
not at all. We spoke about it on Sunday, right? Like 2 days before, we were like, everything's going in the right direction. It's the right. We're in the right moment, and Atlanta's not so good right now, and all that. And they did more than us.
Yeah.
When pretty much the theme of the season, right? Too little, too late. That's what it was.
Yeah. It happens. It happens. Elias, were you as confident as us?
Yes and no. There's you can be assured in the knowledge that you are the better team. You're playing at home. You're in better form. All these other reasons on paper that you should win, but at the same time, it's CF Montreal, right? And boy did they reinforce that little nugget in the back of your head going, what if? Well,
Oh, man.
Yeah. It was a tough loss. Let's
It was
a tough
heartbreaking, man.
loss on penalties, but you know what? At least CF Montreal was able to give us a bit of hope by coming back from a 2-0 2-0 lead from Atlanta United and was able to equalize and to score 2 goals and make it fun. But unfortunately, the cruelty of penalties is always something that is heartbreaking, as you said, Andy. So
what
let's
did Ted Lasso teach us, right? It's the hope that
believe.
kills you. It's the hope
Believe.
that kills you.
Exactly. The hope that kills us. Let's talk about CF Montreal and the lineup of Laurent Courtois. So lineup for Laurent Courtois was very simple as usual. Not a lot of changes. I don't know why I can't see it.
Oh, I can see it.
Oh, I can't see it.
I can't see it either.
Can you
Okay.
not see it?
No, I can't see it.
Do you want me to read the lineup?
Yeah, let's just read it.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, I
go
get to read the
ahead.
lineup. Okay. In nets, Jonathan Sirois, your back three of George Campbell, Joel Waterman, and Fernando Alvarez. Your wing backs are Jaquil Marshall-Rudy and Raheem Edwards. And in the midfield, like always, Samuel Piet and Nathan Saliba. And then you have Bryce Duke and Caden Clark as your attacking midfielders playing in behind of your lone striker, Joseph Martinez.
Yeah, exactly. So not a lot of changes from last game, guys. The only change that we saw was, of course, Nathan Saliba taking back his place in central midfield, right next to Samuel Piet, and Joel Waterman taking back his place as the center back in the middle of the back three. And of course, Gabriel Corbo sitting on the bench for that one. No real like surprise, right, Elias?
No, this is the lineup that got you there, and Gabriela Corbo was very important, but Joel Waterman is still that guy, and this is what got you to the dance. You dance with them.
Okay. Andy,
Yeah,
would
I
you have
mean,
danced with them too?
yeah, I mean, look, it was an expected lineup, unlike the Saturday game where we weren't sure what was happening. This one for sure, we finally said, you know what, like at least now know for sure who's gonna be where, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I expect it. However, man, Saturday to Tuesday, come on, man, like that's rough for any team,
Yeah, and you know
any
what? It's
team.
what's even tougher for Atlanta because they won and then they had
They
to play
traveled.
Miami on Friday in Miami. So they had to travel again from Montreal to Miami to play that game. They lost 2-1, if I'm not mistaken. So, it's tough in 6 days to play three games, but, Atlanta made it, and they 2-1 loss in Miami is not a big loss, right? So good for them. Um, Moving on, let's talk about that game and of course the performances of those players, all those players on the pitch. Roberto saying good evening. Hey Robbie, thanks for being here. He says, well said, Elias. On what?
Everything. What do you mean? What?
Everything. Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah,
On
he's
all
amazing,
matters.
Elias.
Damn
He's
straight.
Greek. He's amazing. So, so let's talk about the performances. Let's start first of all with Joseph Martinez. Let's start with the forwards, with the strikers. Joseph Martinez, Elias. I'll let you start. How did you find his performance? Was he that X factor that we really needed in that game?
Again, right? This is the kind of output where you think to yourself, please come back. Please come back.
We'll talk about that
And
later. We'll
we'll
talk
get
about
into it
that
later.
later.
But you look at the performance again and the way that he wasn't on the ball all the time. But
Yeah.
players like Martinez, especially at their age, what they do is they make the most of what they're given and they make it count. And again, right? They gave him an inch. He found a goal. Yeah, it was a little bit lucky, but they still have to be in the right spot. Still have to be cool enough to, not just aim wildly. He found the one gap where there was no defenders because there's still three defenders in the net after Guzan spilled the ball. So, I mean, and the penalty, cold as ice, man. Top bins on your former keeper that you've probably taken thousands of shots on throughout your time in Atlanta, and you stare him in the eyeballs twice, and you send him the wrong way both times. It's cold, man.
Yeah, but that's why he's a top striker, right?
That's
So
why he's the guy. That's why he
at
makes
the
the
end
big
of the
bucks,
day,
literally.
maybe he wasn't the best during the game and like in all aspects of the game, but he was there when you needed him. He was there to finish the chances. Yes, as you said, Brad Guzan spilled the ball, but you had to put it in the back of the net. We've seen it so many times, strikers missing the net, even with a great performance. And also, as you said, penalties. Like he was so like really like nerves of steel in front of the goal, which is I think very 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 difficult. And you've seen a lot of soccer games in your life. Like these players are one of a kind, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Joseph Martinez is definitely. I mean, in the last half of the season, showcased the kind of player he is. He is special. He is. He reads. I told you guys a few podcasts ago. I just see, like, if you just see like 10 seconds before the ball gets to him, you can see that his mind is just going in a million different directions as to what he can do with what he has, and that's exactly what he did and why he came out. He came up so clutch for us in the last few minutes when you knew he wanted his goal. You knew he was looking for it, and he showcased by being in the right place at the right time, and at the same time, just like I said, that the penalties were just cold blooded. Like he knows what he wants. He you could tell he knew what he wanted. He wanted to score. He wanted to get to the next level of the playoffs, and oh, it's a little too late. But anyways, yes, he is a different caliber of player. I know we'll talk about it later, but this is the kind of player anybody would play would pay top buck to have because of what he does and at what moment. So yeah, absolutely. But as you said, Hadi, I completely agree with you. The whole game wasn't like that. It wasn't
Yeah,
like that the whole game. It was just a very important moment, which is when you need someone to step up. He did, but the whole game wasn't like that. And we'll talk about the other ones, the other performances.
yeah. So I kind of agree with both of you, and we talked about that too. But like at the same time, we talked about the rebirth of CF Montreal quite a few times here on the Ball is Round, and we said that it was the trio of Bryce Duke, Caden Clark, and Joseph Martinez really giving the push to push CF Montreal over that red line and the playoff line. Uh, how did you find, Bryce Duke and Caden Clark, Andy? I know that in the last pod, yes, Caden Clark had scored a goal and gave an assist, but you weren't very happy with his performance. And Bryce Duke has been like very consistent in the last few games. But how did you find them in during that game against Atlanta, both of them?
I honestly found them both tired. Tired of and we saw it in the game against the I forget what team now with that where they also played consecutive minutes like that, and it just you saw them tired. It wasn't the same intensity. It doesn't mean that their skill level is lower or that they're not good, but it's just that they were tired, and that I think if those three are working full of energy and hungry to score and hungry to make it work, then that's the beauty that we see of the game being played. But the moment I think it was a Charlotte game. I might be thinking about another one. But anyways, it just seemed like
The Charlotte away when we lost 2-0. I
yeah,
believe that's the
exactly.
game,
Where we
yeah.
just saw
Mhm.
Kaden Clark that was slower, that just seemed tired. They were playing also low, but yeah, that just it just felt like a slower version of the two of them. Still played a decent game, but I still think that they were there. They I don't. I'm sure that Laurent Courtois was just putting up his best lineup to try to and his what he believes works best, but they were tired, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um,
Elias, like you're Laurent Courtois and you know those players are tired. Would you have done anything else? You said it a bit before. Like this is the team that brought you there. So you need to build their confidence. You need them to be during those moments. So but at the same time, they're tired, as Andy said. So what is you're confronted to a very big decision. Do I keep them knowing that they're my core, or do I rest them and just give them maybe 20 minutes or 30 minutes at the end of the game? Laurent Courtois chose the latter. Chose the first option by giving them the start. Do you think, in hindsight, that it was the right decision?
Yeah, it is. Especially when you're playing against Atlanta at home, you know that they're going to set up a low block. You know they're going to play very defensive and very conservative. You know that all these things are going to mean that you're going to get a lot of the ball and you're going to be very advanced for a long part of the game, which is true. We saw it throughout the game, right? Yes, except for a couple of counters, Montreal had a lot of the ball and you let the ball do the work. This was on the road. It's a different story, completely different story, especially with the prospect of potentially playing another game on Friday. But when you're at home and you're expecting to dominate play like that, fitness is not as big a concern in my book. And you saw it, right? Atlanta did so much more running than Montreal. So fitness for me is not an excuse. I will admit they weren't as sharp as they should have been. I think we'll talk about them after, but Adol Saliba and Samuel Piet had to pick up a lot of that slack in terms of in possession, because Bryce Duke and Caden Clark just. It was the first time where it really seemed like they were not 100% on it since the international break, and they've played multiple game weeks before. This is not new. So again, this is maybe it's the moment. Maybe again, right? I think back to the entire first half. I thought back to Montreal against NYCFC 2 years ago, where the moment of it all completely overtook them. It was a terrible. It was a terrible first half. It was a terrible start, and they kind of regained themselves after the fact, just like Montreal did. But the entire start, it looked like mentally they were not there.
Yeah, mentally they were not there, but at the same time, like I understand that you're tired, but like for me, mentally, that's the problem. Like you need to be there mentally. If you're not there physically, at least mentally, you need to be there. And that's the only thing where I'm a bit more disappointed is that okay, it's okay for you to be tired, but like I felt that it was more not only tiredness, but also I'm not going to say detachment, but a bit of detachment, a bit of is it I don't know. I don't know if there were
Somebody else is gonna do this job, this work that I'm supposed to do.
no, not that
I
much,
kind of
not
get
that
it
much,
because
but like
especially
without it,
Caden Clark,
yeah, I
he
didn't
took it
feel the
personally when
fire in
something
their
didn't go well.
belly.
Yeah,
I
when he
didn't feel
missed
the
something,
fire
he
in their
took it
belly.
personally. When someone took the ball
Yeah,
off him, he took it as a personal insult, and I
yeah.
didn't feel like that on Tuesday. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's very weird. Now, Caden Clark was substituted in the 59th minute, so he didn't play the whole game. But someone like Bryce Duke, who was very tired, Courtois waited until the 81st to substitute him, and we'll talk
Yeah.
about the substitutions a bit later. But I feel that if all three of us we realize that they weren't really at the top of their game, I think that the staff should have seen that a bit earlier. So a bit weird, and it's easy to talk after the game, and it's easy for us to comment and analyze and criticize after the game. But yeah, no, I agree with both of you about the performance of Bryce Duke and Caden Clark. Moving on to the midfield, Elias, you started talking about them. Sam Piet, Nathan Saliba. I don't know how and people watch the games, but I've seen so many people like bash Samuel Piet and his performance, and I just can't understand why, because I think he played very, very well.
I'm going to tell you why. It's because he's not flashy, right?
Yeah.
It's the same reason they've been criticizing him. Yeah, you know what? Under Hernan Losada, his performance, his production dipped a little bit. To be fair, everyone's production dipped, so I'm not really holding it to him. But since he got here, that was a criticism. He does the work that others are either incapable of or unwilling to do. And it's a thankless job for those who maybe don't watch the game as critically, or for those who are outside the staff, because there's a reason that this guy, who technically still leaves a lot to be desired, is consistently, regardless of coach, regardless of system, regardless of form, is always there. It's because you can't find people like this in MLS that can do that work at his level and still also do the job of a pivot quite well, right? He's not going to be pinging 20, 30-yard passes, right, forward and breaking lines, stuff like that. But if you want someone to reliably act as the pivot in possession and win the ball back, there's nobody better to do it, right? And again, this game, there was nothing going through the middle. Absolutely nothing went through the middle. Piet and Saliba, I think this might be one of their best games as a tandem that I've seen all year, because maybe they weren't amazing offensively.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Defensively, holy, there was nothing. Atlanta had nothing.
Defensively, they were very good, but like offensively, I think they I've seen better from them.
Oh yeah, absolutely, right. And there's games where they dominated completely, but defensively they were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Both of them. They worked in tandem perfectly. They won the ball back. They intercepted. They helped. They made up for Clark and Duke's lack of energy, and they were. It felt like there were three of them on the field.
Yeah, and they had quite a bit of a task with Miranchuk, and I think that
Keeping
I
him
saw
out of the game
Samuel Piet as like man marking Miranchuk most of the time, and
it's not an easy thing to do to mark him out of the game, and they did it.
Exactly, did it very well. Andy, you look at those two midfielders, and we talked about how good they were defensively. If you can break down for us their performance offensively, because it was a bit subpar.
Yeah, it just felt like we were seeing a little bit of the Nathan Saliba, and we've heard Laurent Courtois say this in the past about Saliba, is that he forces things. He forces things when he feels pressure, and you could tell. I was looking at his stats of the game, and he had 22 turnovers. Again, not the whole meaning of the game, but it is telling when he is forcing stuff, and he is forcing that the play, and that's something that obviously impacts the game. And so, yeah, I just thought that, as you guys said, a fantastic performance defensively, but offensively, they seemed disconnected from the forwards, and we mentioned the lack of energy that could have 1,000% have affected the way they were maybe passing the ball or how they were seeing the field. But yeah, it was subpar in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. By the way, Samuel saying thank you for the tickets. He's the one that won the tickets
Yes,
for that game. He was very happy, so he had fun. So that's good. Even with the loss, I'm pretty sure he had fun. So that's great. Robbie's saying Caden Clark and Bryce Duke were a bit weak. I agree with him. Sam sends a comment. We'll talk about that a bit later when we talk about the coach. We talked about that midfield, but it's weird because we lost that game. As of right now, we're saying that everything was okay, even if Caden Clark and Bryce Duke were weaker than usual and tired, didn't have a bad game. So as of right now, we're looking at everything and we're like, it's kind of okay, but we still went down 2-0. So let's talk about those two wing backs. Raheem Edwards, Shaquille Marshall-Brody. Can we say it was one of the worst games of Raheem Edwards?
Game? Yeah. What was he doing? I could not I heard the other people say that it's because also he was tired, and when he's tired is like he turns into a whole different player. Raheem Edwards, because he has been, in my opinion, one of the better performers of the season. We'll talk about that in another podcast, I'm sure. But yeah, it was definitely when we needed him at his best, he wasn't there. I mean, I'm looking at his stats, and yeah, 13 turnovers, 3 out of 7 ground duels won. Like, it's just, there's a lot of it left for a lot of room for improvement. And it wasn't, I'm not gonna say that it was necessarily that Atlanta covered him well or they tricked. No, he seemed to get himself tangled up and kind of forced himself into bad positions. And just, again, guys, we've all played soccer here at some point in our lives, and we know that when we're tired, that dribbling that we love doing or that kick that we love doing all of a sudden is not the same quality or then that's just the kind of Raheem Edwards we saw. Definitely one of his worst performances of all the whole season.
Elias, I don't know if you agree with that, and I would like to hear you more on Shaquille Marshall-Ruddy.
It's still the lack of a balanced performance from him. You know what I mean? It's still, I feel like going forward, he was probably one of the most energetic people there, because he
runs a lot,
but he also gets rotated. Of everyone, he gets rotated the most. So yeah, I understand why offensively he was great, but again, when it comes to the balance that can be afforded, defensively he was weak. Right? He left George Campbell to do a lot of work by himself often, and that second goal was a weird foul.
Second goal, it was a foul. It wasn't really a foul.
It was a poor foul too, because it was a really nice tackle from Samuel Piet, and that's just a mistake in coverage, and we'll get to there when we talk about the center backs. The first goal, that wingback had years
Yeah.
to send that
Yeah.
ball in.
Yeah.
At the time to pick his head up, arrange the grass, put the ball in the right spot. It was basically a free kick, right? So that's the thing. We've seen Jaquil Marshruti put in really good defensive performances. We've seen him put in very promising, not great yet, but very promising offensive performances. So we know it's there. We know the ability to do both is there. And at 20, 21 years old, his ceiling is very high. The thing is, now it has to be balanced. Now, for once, we need to see both. And granted, and I was talking about this in the press box, not everyone can be expected to adapt to a team as quickly as Caden Clark has. And I think he may be a victim of being brought into the starting lineup at the same time as Caden Clark. And Caden Clark, who scores 5 goals and 4 assists and looks amazing. And Jaquil Marshruti, who is doing the job, but nowhere near as amazing. And everyone's going, well, why aren't you doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different players, different ages, everything is different. So I don't want to. I am giving him the benefit of the doubt. A full off season to train, learn, do exactly what Laurent Courtois wants him to do. Watch some game footage because his cardio is great. So the ability to put in these performances, there's not a shadow of a doubt that he can do it on both ends of the field. He's quick enough. He has the legs for it. He has the lungs for it. Now it's just applying it. So next year is when you can really start saying, okay, you have all the time you need. You are the starter because David Bugay had some good cameos, but clearly not the starter. Now you have to put both sides of the ball together.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like the fact that he's able to repeat the efforts, like able to really. You never see a ball behind his back. He's always being able to catch up and to defend whenever it's needed. So, and that's something that's very rare for wingbacks. And he's able to bring something in attack. The thing is, his final ball, his final cross is not very accurate as of right now, and that's what he needs to work on. During that game, I think that's exactly what happened. Like the final ball was not there. The final decision was not there. So that's the only thing. But the effort is always there, and this is very, very important. Now, is he going to be able to cross that line to get better and to improve? That's very, very, very important if he wants to grow and if he wants to become an important part of CF Montreal. Also, if he wants to be called up with the national team, he's going to need to bring that extra touch at the end. That extra last ball is going to be very, very important if he wants to improve and grow up. So hopefully we'll see a bit more from that from Jaquil Marshruti.
Wait, so I have a question for both of you. Is it, when we talk about Caden Clark and Jaquil Marshruti, is it too soon to judge either or with this amount of games? Is it too soon to say they're good or they're bad or they're mediocre?
Yeah, it's too
both
soon.
of them.
I mean, Caden Clark showed that he definitely has the talent. Now the pressure is on to make it not be a one-season wonder or one-half-season wonder.
Exactly.
For Jaquil Marshruti, it's more just giving him the patience and the time to integrate in. Because if he hit the ground running in the same way, then the pressure will be on there. But you still see the quality, right? You see, I don't expect Caden Clark to become Georgi Mihailovic right away.
We're holding him to two different standards.
Oh, absolutely, because at the same time, Caden Clark is a much more is not more finished, but is closer to a finished product than Jaquil Marshruti is. Caden Clark trained in Europe as a 10 under 3 of the best 10s today in Christopher Nkunku, Dominic Szoboszlai, and Dani Olmo. He was there training with them every day. He is a much more finished product, and that tells I can tell on the field the way he carries himself. Even though he's 2 or 3 years older than him, he feels like he's 10 years older, just in the way that he goes about a game. So that's why I think there's 2 different standards, because they're 2 different players at 2 different points in their career. Jaquil Marshruti is still in the process of becoming a fullback. Right? He was a winger at TFC, turned into a wingback, and he's still doing that now. So that's still a process in the making.
Yeah, I agree with you. 100%. I completely agree with you. We need to give him a bit more time and an off season. I think the off season is going to be is going to determine what kind of player he's going to be. I think this offseason is super important for him. Very, very important. Not saying that he can't change and he can't, he's not going to be able to improve after. He's not going to be able to develop after. But I think this offseason is very, very important for him in his career. Moving on with the back three. Fernando Alvarez, Joel Waterman, and George Campbell. I'll start with you, Elias, this time. And first, before starting with you, I want to hear Sam Savi's comment saying, one word on Alvarez. He's solid, but he really needs to improve his awareness when players are behind him. For a center back, the only learning in those situations is the guilt when you get scored on. And there is no one else to blame but yourself for the bad marking on the goal. And I feel that he's talking about that second goal, if I'm not mistaken, not the first one.
I think the first goal was more on. The second one was him and Edwards together.
Right.
But the first goal was 100% on Alvarez.
Yeah.
And Sam's right. I mean, at the end, he's a very good on-ball defender. In possession, he's very good. He has a lot of really strong attributes, especially for being he's 21, I think, 21 or 22. There's a lot to like about him. The awareness that has to come with experience, and it's not just on crosses, but especially when Tom Pierce was playing at left back and he was caught forward, a lot of forwards would run in that space behind, and Alvarez would also get caught with his pants down in a way that George Campbell doesn't on that other side. And it's the exact same kind of play. George Campbell is quicker than him, but it's not just a speed thing. It's also just George Campbell reading the play better and putting himself in the right spot. Because George Campbell, let's face it, especially against Atlanta, again, phenomenal game. And everyone's talking about how good Fernando Alvarez has gotten over the course of the season. George Campbell quietly has done the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that his beginning of the season was so loudly dysfunctional and inconsistent that people forgot, but his second half of the season was excellent. He was lights out in almost every game. He's learning to kind of control his impulses, and those joyrides are becoming a lot less frequent, but also a lot more effective. So whenever he does go run and take off like crazy and go on an adventure, something good usually comes from it. So all this to say, George Campbell is probably one of the most improved players this season. And now it's Fernando Alvarez's turn, because again, this is Fernando Alvarez's first year, right?
Yeah.
George Campbell had a whole year before that. So this is Fernando Alvarez's time to build on what he's learned.
Yeah.
And it's a different profile from Campbell. We're not going to talk. I really don't have anything to say about Waterman because it was a very much a Joel Waterman copyright.
So well said.
He was exactly Joel Waterman. He was good in possession. He didn't really let anything come right down his channel. But that's the thing, right? When you play against MLS teams on the road, they look for one option. They look for one little, kink in the armor, and they exploit it. It happened twice, and then that's how you win on the road in MLS.
Yeah.
Smash and grab, and then you defend.
Yeah, no, I kind of get your point. I think that I agree with everything that you said. I still think that during that game, we talked about that goal. Okay, I agree that he should have been better, Fernando Alvarez, in defending the set pieces because, as we said, that's where he wasn't very good during that game. I also agree that I feel that he wasn't very solid, even with not only on the goals, but even if whenever there was a one-on-one, whenever there was he had the duel against someone, he used to. I think that he lost most of his duels during that game. Andy, do you feel that Fernando Alvarez wasn't at his best during that game? And George Campbell had a pretty decent game. And as you said, Elias, I think Waterman did Waterman, like he played his old. He
was definitely Joel Waterman.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, look, Joel Waterman did what we expected him to do. Not going to get too deep into that. big players come up in big moments. We know that, guys. And I thought George Campbell played like a big player. I like the big player he's come to be at this point of the year. I was surprised by how nervous Fernando Alvarez looked throughout the game. He seemed nervous, a little bit displaced. Seemed, yes, the goals were directly linked to him, but it's almost like I've noticed it in the past that teams were, constantly attacking that side, attacking that side, and we seem to have figured it out with Raheem Edwards and Fernando Alvarez because they did work together. But again, the fatigue of Raheem Edwards can be understated as to in what position it was placing Fernando Alvarez, and I just think that he was maybe just overwhelmed with the kind of pressure and
Interesting.
that was
Interesting
coming.
take. Interesting take, Andy. Linking the two together, saying that Edwards' fatigue really didn't help Fernando Alvarez, and you know what? I don't disagree at all. It might be that, but he was subpar during that game. He wasn't that good, and yeah, Raheem Edwards wasn't.
Look, I think something we've all learned, and guys, I'll ask your opinion on this, right? We've all learned throughout the year that this is a scheme that works if all the pieces are working, right? We know this, and it's not based on individual performances. It's really a scheme that works. And would you guys say that what we've saw the last few games leading up to the playoff qualification was based on the scheme, or was it individual performances coming being great? And like say what we saw in the Atlanta performance on Tuesday to the Saturday win against NYCFC, right? Was it more of individuals being great individuals, or just the scheme working and people understanding? What would you guys put it in? More scheme or individual success for the winner and loss? Elias, I'll start with
I
you.
mean, I think the scheme worked on Tuesday. It really was two individual errors.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it, the rest of the game was one-way traffic,
Sorry.
right? The rest of the game
Okay, it happens.
was Montreal controlling possession, creating chances. A lack of finish could chalk up to what we talked about the forwards before, but in terms of Laurent Courtois can only do so much, and the coaching staff can only do so much in getting the team down the field and getting them into the final third, and they did that. Once you get to the final third, that's on the players, and they did not deliver until it was until the 70th minute mark or something, right? So I don't blame the scheme, but at the same time, the individuals won the game on Saturday, on decision day, because the scheme was so heavily reliant on the players each doing their jobs defensively that the individual attitudes won that. The scheme was stay compact, wait for your moments, and hit back on the counter, and they did that. But Joel Waterman, Gabriel Corbo, Samuel Piet, George Campbell, and Fernando Alvarez built that block of five. They individually, there was no scheme there. It's just defend. And, they definitely took into account some of the more dangerous people and some of the more dangerous threats that New York has. But that comes down to individual performances, and everybody in that back line, in that midfield, was on it that night. That's the difference.
Hady, do you think it was more an individual failure or scheme failure?
No,
Or
individual,
winner to
100%. I agree with Elias, 100% individual in that on that game. Two set pieces. The two set pieces. It's the man marking wasn't right. Even that third chance that thank God the guy skied. I think I don't know who it was, but he
It was
skied
Lennon
it
again.
completely.
It was Lennon again.
Yeah. Even there, it was also someone, I think Raheem Edwards in that instance, that didn't really, fight back to really go and tackle that player. So and make sure that he doesn't get the ball. So no, for me it wasn't tactical at all. It was individual. Those errors were really individual, and it happens. We've been talking about fatigue since the beginning, and I feel that usually individual errors come because of fatigue, because the tactics were at last understood. They weren't as understood before, and they were understood in the last 6-7 games of the season. So I don't think it's a tactical error. No, I don't think so.
All right.
Moving on, I just want to specify we have a lot of comments on players that we already talked about. So midfielders and forwards. We already talked about them. We're only talking about that game on Tuesday. We're not talking about the whole season. We will do a post-mortem in the next couple of weeks. So you will get our take of everybody's performance during the year. Same thing for coaches and sporting directors and president. We'll do a post-mortem and we'll talk about all of them. So that's for the season altogether. Now we're talking about that game against Atlanta. Moving on, before we finish, Jonathan Sirois. And honestly, I've been reading some tweets of people saying that he should have stopped one of the 2 goals, and I feel that that's super hard. Like, it was kind of very hard for him to do stops on those 2 goals. Do you agree with me, or do you feel that he could have done more?
No, I do agree with you. I've been for as much as I've been critical of Jonathan Sirois for his play, and I do think that he's done his best to do stops and been actually very, very good at doing stops. I'm not gonna say he's just good. He's been great at doing stops. I won't put that blame on him. He's done his mistakes throughout the season. He's had some debatable positioning or whatever, but no, on Saturday it wasn't his fault. I'm not gonna get a decent performance.
Yeah, I think so too, Elias. Decent performance during the game. What about penalties? Because
oh my goodness,
okay,
it's hard to judge a goalkeeper on penalties. But you know what?
Yes.
I'm going to give you an example. before you start. Okay, one of the greatest France goalkeepers in Hugo Lloris, and even his number 2 in Steve Mandanda,
yes,
were great keepers throughout their careers.
Yep.
100%. But they were really bad on penalties, both of them. So,
yeah.
And you see other goalkeepers that didn't have such an illustrious career, like Wojtek Szczesny, who's so good on penalties.
Yeah. No,
so how can a goalkeeper get better on penalties only?
I'm not a goalkeeping coach.
Yeah.
I'm not a goalkeeping coach, right? So it's tough for me to say this is what you need to do, right? When we talk about distribution, it's just more training, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to penalties, so much of it is psychological. I don't blame him for not saving any penalties. One thing that was disappointing is how many times he went the wrong way.
Yeah.
That's the one thing where, and again, we're all 3 of us are coming from perspective of we've never been. Last time I was a goalie was U7, okay, U9 actually, okay, and so, I don't know if it's a psychological thing, if it's a opposition research thing, if it's just you have to be in front of more penalties during training thing. Probably a combination of all 3. But one thing is for certain, penalties is definitely something he has to work on. I will say this, for as much as we've criticized him about his distribution, on Tuesday, his distribution was excellent.
Okay, here we go.
He was on point with his passes. He was good under pressure. He relieved pressure a lot of times. So I will give him this. The distribution was much better on Tuesday.
Yeah, I agree.
But if we're talking about penalties straight up, then yeah, it obviously needs work because I'm sure that Lloris and Steve Mandanda didn't stop working on it, and neither should he.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you can work.
Sometimes you just have it. Sometimes you just got it, right?
Yeah, I think you just have it. But I think it's not something that you can work on.
And this poise under pressure, and we're talking about a Montreal Impact legend in Patrice Bernier. Sometimes you just have this coolness under pressure when it comes to penalties.
Yeah,
like the Argentinian.
But the thing is, when it comes to stopping them, the other side of the coin, right? Yeah, like Andy said, right? Like Emiliano Martinez. Sometimes you just have it, but it's not just a psychological thing, right? Because Chesney, it's a technical thing. Martinez, it's a psychological thing. But there's goalkeepers who are not specialists who are still managed to get some stops and still managed to help their teams out, right? Sebastian Breza, for all it's worth, is a proven penalty stopper, right? And it's not just
would
size.
you have substituted Sirois for Breza?
No, I don't believe in that.
1,000% I would have.
I do understand.
Yeah.
Let's hear Andy. Let's hear Andy.
He is a proven. He's like you said, he's a proven specialist of penalty stopping.
Oh, I said a stopper. I didn't say a specialist. I say just
he's better. He's better. He's stopped penalties in the past. He stopped penalties in the past. He's bigger than Jonathan Sirois, and
you know what? Chan is telling you something, Andy. Sirois was a PK specialist in CPL. He stopped 3 PKs in CPL.
Okay, but I mean,
could have fooled me.
But Breza has also stopped penalties in CPL. CPL.
No, Canadian Championship.
Oh, and the Canadian Championship. Okay, there you go. But anyways, as you guys said, in every level, we've seen a million TikToks and reels of goalies looking at the like little directions or like where that kicker prefers to kick their penalty, right? They always try to get an edge, regardless who you are, because it is absolutely so hard to block a penalty. So I'm not gonna blame the loss on I'm not gonna blame that loss on Sirois, but I definitely do think at that point you're just trying to win it, man. You're trying to win it. I'm sure they spent the whole 3 days. What did they have? 2 or 3 days to play. They probably spent it all looking at, practicing penalties and saw which goalie had the better tendency. Maybe Sebastian Breza sucked. That's why they didn't pick him. But if based on the little we've seen of him, he was decent in my opinion. Why not take that risk? So, anyways.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of agree with Sean saying Atlanta, all 5Ks for Atlanta were very, very good.
And that's why I don't fault him for not saving them.
Exactly. So I don't know how much another goalkeeper.
He went the wrong side. It's the fact that he didn't even get close to them, right?
Yeah.
Even the one down the middle.
Robbie agrees with you. Robbie agrees with you. He says that he looked awful on the penalties.
I don't blame him for not stopping one. It wasn't close.
Yeah. I don't know. Honestly, for me, it's a bit of a blur. Goalkeepers are weird, and their job is weird, and it's hard. It's very hard to judge.
We're not going to start bullying goalies.
No, we're not going to bully goalies. But they say it themselves, right? That the goalkeepers, they're always in their own bubble. It's a group within the group. They're in the group, but not really in the group at the same time.
Guys, we've all played backyard soccer. We all have. And every time somebody's a goalkeeper, it's not the most normal or skillful person in the field. It's usually the weirdest person that just
but
I mean it in the nicest way, right? But it's just they have
that's really bullying. No.
But what I'm saying is just you've seen it in the professional level and all levels. The goalies have a special personality. They do. Yeah. They're known for that. Yeah. So
yeah. I agree.
Breza has the personality for penalty kicks.
Let's talk about Laurent Courtois now, because
the boss.
He made a few changes. We'll talk about the substitutions first, and then we'll talk about Laurent Courtois and then the players that got substituted in. Okay. So first of all, Laurent Courtois dealt with the way he dealt with the game. So we talked about the starting 11 at first, and we all said that it was a good thing for him to start with the team that really got him there. Completely agree with that. And then he made some changes. We were losing 2-0 at halftime. First change that Laurent Courtois made was at the 59th minute, substituting Raheem Edwards for Tom Pierce and Caden Clark for Kwadwo Poku coming in, and Jules-Anthony Vilsaint for Samuel Piet. Right after, on the 81st minute, we had Bryce Duke coming off for Sunusi Ibrahim, and lastly, on the 98th minute, Gabriele Corbo coming in for George Campbell. Guys, when you look at the way Laurent Courtois managed that game, managed the the substitutions, managed the tactical side of things. How did you think he did? I will give you one of the comments of Sam Savvy that says, uh, he said he fixed the Courtois midfield interstate highway he used to offer the opposition and actually started coaching this team. Credit to him, it took a long while, but he fixed his own mess. What do you look at Elias? Elias doesn't agree. Go ahead, Elias. Go.
I don't know about interstate because when it was bad everywhere.
Yeah.
There was definitely something to say about the middle of the field and how disjointed it was at times, but interstate's a funny word.
I think he's talking about the whole season, not this game, right?
Yeah, and that I understand because over the course of the last, even when it was bad, over the course of the last 2 months, I would say the midfield has really stepped up its game. Now that Nathan Seriba is in confidence, and him and Samir Piet are really gelling, I think that solution is solved,
Yeah.
right? And realistically, the spine of midfield and defense are staying next year. That shouldn't be a problem. So I'm not worried about next year. Now it's about becoming better and avoiding the small lapses in concentration that put you down to nothing. But yeah, Sam makes a decent point. But again, that's credit to a rookie coach learning from his mistakes and then working to fix it.
Good. We will talk about that, of course, during the postmortem, more in depth, 100%. But the changes, Andy.
Yeah.
Do you feel that they were done at the right time? Do you feel that he could have done more? He could have done less? The tactical changes. What did you think about his management of the game?
I'll ask you guys the questions. Are we trying to win or are we trying to give minutes? Like, are we trying to win the game or just give minutes? Because if you're
what
waiting,
would you have done to win the game?
halftime, get him out. There is no chance that the first half.
Who for who?
Well, the Tom Pierce or Raheem Edwards. There's no way Raheem Edwards should have played the second half. There's no way Raheem Edwards displayed anything remotely that was, let's give him 10 more minutes, 15 more minutes of play. Nothing that he did that merited. That's why I asked a question. Are we trying to win or give minutes? Because
okay, so you would have changed Tom Pierce for Raheem Edwards.
I would have
any other
Clark
changes
as well. I would have taken. They were tired. I think, in my opinion, the way they were playing, they were tired. And when they're tired, they're not skilled. And we saw that the moment that Tom Pierce and Quadro Poco came in, they brought a lot more energy into the game. They brought a lot more energy. I did like what I saw from him because I told you guys it always feels like it's a frail human being walking that you never know if they're going to get injured or not. I saw him run around a lot more confident once he came in. So I really liked what I saw. Hopefully we can see more of that next season. But those are the two subs that I would have made at halftime because I do think that they were players that were tired and they were both playing on the same side, if I remember correctly, both Kaden Clark and Raheem Edwards. So it was a very tired side, and I think just that energy made a big difference towards that second run for the 2 goals at the end. Tom Pierce was his magical crosses that he does to the center.
Elias, would you have done the same changes earlier, the same as Andy?
I understand the concept of you make adjustments at halftime, and I'm giving you 10, 15 minutes to show me why you don't deserve to be subbed off. But at the same time, if you want to send a message, you have to sub somebody out, right? It was clear that nothing was going on the left-hand side. It's clear that Tom Pierce off the bench has been phenomenal in attack. To me, that's a no-brainer, right? You could tell the other 9 players, the other 9 outfielders, you have 15 minutes to prove to me that you deserve to be on this field for the rest of the game. But Tom Pierce for Raheem Edwards should have been immediately, right? That should have been the first thing.
The thing is, Elias, a lot of people don't know that, but you're only allowed to 3
At a time.
Substitution windows. Yes.
Yeah.
windows in the half. So if you
Halftime
use
doesn't count as a
one,
window. Halftime doesn't count as a window, does it?
no. I mean, you can do one in the first half and 3 in the second. You're allowed to do that. So in one half, you're allowed to 3 substitution windows, not more. Okay, halftime doesn't count as a substitution window. No, that's not what I'm saying. It does count. It does count as a substitution window.
Count.
Yeah, yes, it does. It does. So if you do the change for Real Madrid, you only have 2 more windows during the halftime, during the whole half. So how do you manage that? He should have done more than
that's
Pierce.
That's not immediate concern. The immediate concern right now is righting the ship. And I think that has to be with Tom Pierce coming in. Because again, fresh legs, exceptional delivery, literally created the first goal. It's the one time I've ever seen me agree with Wellington, And
but Wellington says that in hindsight, Raheem Edwards should have started the game on the bench. He was so bad on Tuesday. But before,
I misread that then.
Yeah, okay. Because before we said that he had the right starting 11. I tend to agree with Andy saying, you know what? At halftime, Raheem Edwards should have been out for Tom Pierce, but I would have started Raheem Edwards at the beginning because, as you said
it's working.
earlier,
it's working.
It was working. It was working. Okay, so that's one of the things. The only other thing that you guys didn't talk about, in my opinion, I didn't understand the Samuel and Piet change, even if it made sense afterwards because they scored 2 goals.
I think they were going attack.
It's exactly. It's just we need bodies forward, and I'm sending you and you and you and you. I think that's it.
But
Nathan Saliba is more versatile.
This was at the second goal was in the
59th minute. So the where I don't understand it is that the reason why it wasn't working in attack, and we said it quite a few times here on the Ball is Round on this episode, that the 2 midfielders were tired. So it's not because our tactics weren't working. It's because Bryce Duke and Caden Clark were tired. So that's the thing that I would have changed myself than changing the whole tactics. Maybe I would have changed around the 60th minute Bryce Duke and Caden Clark and kept Joseph Martinez. And then maybe 10 minutes later, if we hadn't scored a goal, that's when I would have changed the midfielder to go really and go get those 2 goals. I think that it was a bit premature to remove Sam Piet. I think we needed him. I think we still needed him, or I maybe would have removed a central defender than Sam Piet, who's your captain that was playing a very good game. I don't know.
Wait, Hady, do you take out? Do you take out?
Duke...
Sorry. Do you take out Nathan Saliba?
No, I said a central defender. So I would have taken out Fernando Alvarez from the game
and change it to back 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
With Tom Pierce the thing is, Bryce Duke dropped into the midfield, and I think the plan was to sub him out eventually too, and he did. But at the end, you look at it, and Piet did his job, right? He did his job.
Wellington doesn't agree with you, saying he wasn't good. I don't agree at all, Wellington.
Well, Piet was exhausted because he ran 12 kilometers in an hour. So I mean, that's the reason.
For the first 60 minutes, he was very good.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But dropping Bryce Duke there keeps the attack and keeps the shape.
Yeah.
So I think that was the understanding, and the fact that he and Saliba played a couple of games together in the midfield together. At least there's that understanding. And the reason I think it went Clark instead of Duke is just because between the 2 of them, Duke was having a better game.
Yeah.
Duke was getting into spaces. Duke maybe wasn't running as much, but Duke never runs as much. He was getting into advanced spaces, and he was getting into really dangerous opportunities. So having him drop into the midfield, at least, right? Because at the end of the day, Caden Clark, there's only so much you have in your tank before it's spent, and he's been going full throttle for 2 months now, nonstop. He gave everything he had, and for a guy that just came in 2 months ago, infinitely thankful. it's clear his gas tank was empty on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why he was the first one out. It's
He
that
was
simple.
like
And
a
Bryce Duke, who still
shell
had.
of himself. Yeah.
Yeah, and also you take into a fact that he was talking about how he almost never played in Minnesota, and when he did, it was just in the weird spot. It was a sub. You don't have the match fitness when you come in. If you're in like not off-season mode, but close to it, coming into a team, then you're at some point, you just need a break.
No. Interesting. I think we talked about Laurent Courtois and what he could have done and what he did well. Of course, it's very easy to talk after the game and knowing the result. In the heat of the moment, I'm pretty sure they made 20 million mistakes ourselves, but hats off to Laurent Courtois to dealing with all this under pressure. So like we're not coaches, right? So we can't really take his place. Maybe Elias one day, but
Okay.
So yeah. Moving on, guys. 2-2 loss in penalties. What do we make of the season? We're not doing a postmortem on the players, but knowing everything that has happened during the year, what's your take on CF Montreal 2024 season in just 2 or 3 sentences? Go ahead, Andy.
How about we use one word?
If you want to.
The word is
confused emoji. But no.
You're allowed to 3 sentences, but if you want to use one word, go ahead.
I mean, roller coaster, man. Just a roller coaster. That's what I'm gonna use. If I can describe 2024, it's roller coaster. That's it. What else am I gonna use? Like, just felt like a slap in the face every other week at the beginning, and then at the end it was just like the big conclusion of like, but we still made it to the playoffs. like excuse my French, but what WTF is happening right now? Like, we just went through all this and we're still in the playoffs. Like, doesn't make any sense. Anyways, I went on. Go ahead, Elias.
I've tried to avoid making any Wilfried Nancy comparisons for a good chunk of the season. This is eerily similar to 2021.
Oh, yeah.
And the way they ended, but also how weird it was in the middle. My third sentence is, now it's up to Laurent Courtois to continue that without putting too much pressure on him and confirm that this end of the season wasn't just right timing and easier, quote unquote, easier schedule.
Interesting. I tend to agree with both of what you guys said. In my opinion, I think that team deserves more. When I look at the team and their abilities and the players and their abilities, I'm a bit disappointed, knowing that, if I look at just, the squad itself, the roster itself, the players individually, and what you're able to do, the different profiles that you have in that team, I feel that you have so many good profiles on that team that you can beat anybody
in paper.
On paper, yes, 100% on paper. The thing is, when you look at everything that has happened, it's understandable. It's understandable that that the road ends there. It's completely understandable. So disappointed in a way on paper, but at the same time, realistically, I'm kind of okay with the way it ended.
So disappointed but happy, Hady, if I understand.
No, disappointed but okay. Happy. I would have been happy if we beat Atlanta and we'd have lost against Miami. Yes, I would have been happy. But I feel that loss against Atlanta is a bit too much. Like, we should have.
I was sad.
We should have won. Yeah,
I was sad that we lost.
Yeah,
I was like,
we should have won.
I was like, man, we made it to the playoffs and we lost on penalties.
Yeah.
Like, that hurts,
the soccer gods do not care about you and do not owe you a damn thing.
Exactly.
Whether you deserve it or not does not
exactly.
matter.
guys, we still have quite a few things to talk about, so let's move on directly to the end of year presser. Elias, you were there. I was there too. Quite a lot of things were said. Of course, we started at first with the honors of the best player of the season for Joseph Martinez, and of course the best defensive player of the season, and the um, the Jason Dotulio winner for the one that has the Grinta was given to Samuel Piet. It started like that. Then we had 5 players that came in and gave their thoughts on the season, answered questions from the reporters. We had Nathan Saliba. We had, I forgot the order, but it was Nathan Saliba. Then it was Martinez. Then it was Piet. Then it was
nobody else.
No, it was Waterman, and there's a 5th player that came.
Caden Clark. It was Caden Clark, then
exactly. Exactly. Caden Clark, and then we had Laurent Courtois, and then we had Gabriel Gervais. We're not going to go through everything that was said. We're going to talk about, 3 or 4 talking points that were interesting. The first talking point was from Gabriel Gervais that said and confirmed that Laurent Courtois would be back next year in 2025. Elias, you said that you did the comparison with Wilfried Nancy, saying that season 2024 looked like 2021 Wilfried Nancy. Are you expecting 2025 to be 2022 Wilfried Nancy?
This club has taught me not to expect anything. No, I don't expect that. What I do expect is progression, right? You made the play-in this year via decision day and you hosted a playoff game. Next year, don't even be in the situation where you need to be in a play-in game, right? Now you shoot for between 4 and 7, which is, again, everyone staying healthy is not an unreasonable thing to ask for. Given how, look, the last month and a half has shown us what level this team can play at. You take that and you add it to so many games where, if not a win, points were there that were left on the table. And then the continuous evolution that comes with an entire offseason finally with Laurent Courtois, because he talked about it at the presser. He came in like a week before preseason. Now he gets a full offseason where he gets to coach indirectly as the players develop on their own before training camp. This is now the progression. I don't expect them to fight for Supporter Shield, but that's the expectation now.
Okay. You're not being over optimistic, which is weird. I've seen you more optimistic.
Sorry, they're gonna win
more...
75 points. They're gonna win 80 points and crush Miami's record. That's what I meant to say.
Andy,
in Football Manager.
Next question for you, Andy.
Yes.
Gabriel Gervais said something that was interesting when I think it was Sid Fowo that asked him the question about the way the money is spent. 3 of the 4 players that are the most paid weren't on the pitch in the last game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And all 3 of them, two of the 3 will not have a contract next year. Do you feel? And he asked him, are you going to use that money to get reinforcement? And the answer of Gabriel Gervais was very cautious, saying we will spend money diligently. We'll bring that extra talent.
There will be changes.
It will bring that extra talent, and we will use the U22 initiative. What do you expect, Andy, from that?
I expect that that we're not gonna see these people that are we're spending a lot of money on back. Okay, except for the one I'm still on the fence about is Matias Kokaro, but we're not gonna go into detail. But I do expect them to, depending on what they do with Corey Ray, is to have a different squad next year with more young, with younger squad, maybe younger squad, and
Even
to
younger than that, they were one of the youngest of the MLS.
yeah, but to them,
Wow.
is Matias Kokaro's age something other project?
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, even Martinez, as much as we love him and as much as we want him back, he's not part of their project style, you
But you
know.
need
But
veterans. He said that you need veterans to make
yeah,
sure that
but
those
but
players.
that's why he's like, I think what we're gonna see is a lot more youth being brought in. I don't know if it's gonna be from the academy or from outside of in the MLS or Europe, but I think that's what they're if they're, I take it as black and white, whatever they say. But as I said, it's CF Montreal. You never know what to believe. But they will be using that Bologna scouting resources to maybe bring another prospect from Europe. So we'll see. We'll see what. But that's what I think. I think based on what they're saying, based on what Gabriel Gervais has been saying the past few months, is they want to be smart with the way they spend their money. Doesn't mean that they're going to spend it all. But yeah, they're going to spend money on younger players.
Okay.
Yeah.
Elias, he also, Gabriel Gervais said and answered two questions, and I'll ask them both together because for me, there's one that's not even a question, and the other one is more interesting. To the first one about CF Montreal moving, he said no, we're not moving anywhere, so we're not gonna talk about that. But like, I have to like they talked about it, so I have to talk about it here. Second question that was asked. Second question that was asked is the change and the potential change in schedule and how they would deal with that. And I really liked his answer, saying that we've been contacted and all the teams are contacted and are part of the discussion to see how it would work. So he didn't deny the possibility of that happening. No. So what do you feel about that, Elias? Do you think it's a big mistake? Do you see that? Do you think it's viable here in Montreal? And how would you do that?
It's not just Montreal though, right? When you look at
We're
it, you look at all the
Montreal, right?
I know, but you look at all the MLS cities that get snow. You know, it's not just the Canadian cities. There's a lot of northern cities in the States that get a crap ton of snow, more than Vancouver, more than even maybe Montreal on some, depending on when it is. And Ontario is landlocked, so it's not as it's a lot more snow, but it's not. This is frankly ridiculous. If this is announced for like 2027 or 2028, I don't know what the exact what year they're looking to implement this in. It has to be done with enough foresight to give the teams the time to adjust accordingly in terms of not just how they plan their seasons, but infrastructure, right? Because you look at the leagues in Northern Europe where there's snow all the time. They don't follow the European schedule to the letter. Some of them do, some of them don't, but they all make it their own to work around their climate because a heated field is great when there isn't 20 centimeters of snow. And when it's not minus 10, right?
No, I agree.
And if you're going to make people build covers, then you're screwed because, the Olympic Stadium is in no shape to receive an MLS team full-time or even for half a season. And what's that's what a BMO Field's supposed to build a roof now over it? That's not like some of these stadiums are not made to just throw a roof on top. That's not how that works. Some of these stadiums are not bowl stadiums. So I think it's if they're doing this has to be like almost a decade in the works. It can't just be
What if we share a stadium with Toronto?
I'd
Oh no,
rather
man,
die.
no, that's not
I'd
gonna
rather
happen,
not
man.
have a team.
Nah. I'm
Thank
not
you.
sharing anything with Toronto, man. Not even,
I
not
just
even
wanted
a
to see
private
Hattie's
beer,
angry
dude.
reaction towards that
Nah,
proposition.
not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. No, but honestly, I think that everybody's freaking out a bit too much. I think for
Yeah.
that switch in calendar, and the reason behind it is that already MLS ends around the 2nd of December already. So like adding 10 days to that, not big of a deal. If you're talking about Montreal, you can make sure that the last 2 games in the year are played away from home. And then the rumor says that the beginning of the year will only be in February, and it's already end of February is already when the season starts here in Montreal. So like that would add maybe 2 weeks at the end of the season and maybe 2 weeks at the beginning of the season. So that's only 4 weeks. So that's only 4 games. You play those 4 games away, and you're good. It's not that big of a change, right? The thing
But
is, you won't
when you look
have.
at the full time, Saputo Stadium opened up in like April, right? It wasn't just 4 games. They had like 4 games at home, 4 games on the
Yeah,
road, 1 game at home, and then like another 3 games on the road again.
yeah.
So that's my concern is, are you really gonna say you have 17 away games? You're gonna do 10 of them in the span of like 13 MLS games? Man, no. Okay.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It will
They
be
need to
nice to
find
see
a
them start the
solution, that's for
season with
sure.
like 10 home games for once. That'd be funny.
There
But
was
That
a
would be
game. I don't know if it was this year or last year in Real Salt Lake. I don't know if you guys remember that. That there was snow that was
yeah,
covering the whole field, and the
yeah.
players played it.
LAFC
It was a fun thing, and I
It's
think Canada, the Canadian men's team also played in a very snowy game.
yes,
It's
exactly.
doable. It's not the end of the world, right?
Yeah,
But
but it's doable for 1 game. But if you're playing under
this
snow
can't
for
be.
3 months,
yeah, but it's not gonna snow for 2 rounds. Anyways,
we don't know.
we'll adjust.
Perfect. So I don't think there's anything else of note that we can talk about of the off season. The only other thing we're going to talk about it when we talk about the decisions that are going to be are going to have to be taken by by Gabriel Gervais, Corey Ray, and all the deciders. But first, let's answer all the questions that we have received. So we'll start first with Simple Guy's question. So, will Martinez stay? And if not, will he be replaced with the same goal potential? I'll let you start, Andy. Do you think he's going to stay? And do you think he will be replaced if he's not staying?
I think he will stay with the right amount of money that is offered to him. I do think he's gonna stay. I think he liked the city. He liked the city. He him and Courtois came to an understanding, and he seems to enjoy his approach. So I think he'll stay. Um, and yeah, so I think he will stay. If he doesn't stay, I'm sure they will be look. I don't know if they're going to be looking for necessarily his potential. It's hard to find Martinez that is discarded as he was, like the Martinez situations. There are, and this team has found. They did it with K Kamara before as well, but it's hard. So they could find a gem that is willing to do it, but yeah, that's my take on that. I do think he'll be back.
You think he'll be back?
I do think
Elias.
he'll be back.
He was really coy in the presser. He was really like, I don't know, me. Like, if you're coming back, you're gonna say it. I'm not gonna snap
And
and say he's gone.
he said
But
ciao chicos also, and
yeah, but I think he was just being tongue in cheek there. I don't think that was.
I don't know.
I didn't really read into it
Take
all
it
that
from a
much. Just like,
Latino man. I mean, ciao chicos is just bye guys, thank you. Like, don't read it too much into that.
yeah, I don't think it was a little cheeky. Look, I don't think that there's been a definite decision made yet, and if there is, we'll be hearing about it soon. Because again, we'll talk about it before the deadline is coming up. But he was really coy. He did not sound like someone who had his mind made up.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to be seen before the club triggers his option. But
That's Elias not answering the question. Do you think he's gonna
you're
stay?
damn right.
Do
I
you
think
not want us to like hold you accountable to when it responds, Elias?
He
exactly?
always
I
does
hate,
that,
hate
Elias.
answering
He
such
always
questions.
does that. He
I'll
always
just
does
say
that.
I knew it the whole time, guys.
Yeah.
I'm too exactly. I'm too diplomatic for this. No, okay. I think he will be back,
Okay.
and that's the optimist in me saying that.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna be back or not. And I had a strong feeling that he wasn't gonna be back, but now I'm not really sure. I think that if he's back, he's gonna want a new contract. And I'm not sure that CF Montreal wants to give him that contract.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna say no.
Kai Kamara 2.0.
I'm
Exactly.
gonna say no, but you know what? I wouldn't be if he signs a new contract for sure. He's gonna be here. So if CF Montreal gives him more money, he's gonna be here, and they will have money. Moving on with the other questions. Let's start with Emile.
I love Emil's questions.
What's Courtois' best improvement this season, and what's the biggest thing he needs to improve before in 2025? Assuming he comes back. Yes, he's coming back. Everybody confirmed it during the presser. So, Andy.
One of the things that I liked, it might seem silly, and maybe you guys don't agree, but one of the things that I like that I think he improved over the season was the way he carried himself. And that's a big point to me because he carried his confidence in his voice and his calls and in what he was doing reflected in his players' performance because it reflected on his players' performance because of his confidence, the way he delivered. He came on our podcast and he answered one of the questions saying that one of the things that he changed in the year, like one of the things that triggered it was that his communication didn't change. The way he, he was just very much more consistent with his message. And again, that goes with the way he carried himself, right? And the way he delivered his message to his players. I don't know if there were people that were saying that before. Maybe players were saying that his messages were different, which we had heard from Losada before. But yeah, I do think something I think he needs to improve in 2025. Honestly, I would say maybe like his decision making with substitutions, as we discussed in the final game. When someone is really not performing, stop giving them more minutes because they need, like, at some point you need to let a player know, like, I'm sending a message. You suck today. We're putting you out. Like, that's it. So that's what I think he needs to improve, like more in his substitution strategies, and to put a Breza instead of Sirois for penalties.
Elias.
I think the biggest thing he's improved on is preparing for other teams. A lot of his first games, he was caught having to adapt after the fact, and rightfully, he made the right call a lot of the time. Maybe a bit too late sometimes, but throughout the season, I feel like the initial game plan was increasingly suited to benefit Montreal, at least from a tactical perspective. We talked about, right, when it was really bad, the performances were also atrocious. But, you know, with the minutia of the way that each player had their own responsibilities, I think was better set up to suit them with the particular matchup. And that's one thing that I think he's gone a lot better at, is not just saying you have to play this way and this way only or else. No, you're allowed to change. And he did. And I think that helped kind of control the game a little bit more. Now, I agree with Andy. The one thing that I feel he needs to improve on is pulling the trigger on adjustments. You want to make an adjustment? Make the adjustment. Don't spend 10, 15 minutes going, but maybe. And it's not just a substitution. This is also just a tactical change or a formation change or any kind of adjustment that, even if it's not a substitution, because that's been something he's struggled with all season. Is he had the right answer, but by the time he put it into place, it was too late. No, you have the answer. Trust your gut. Do it, because a lot of the time those adjustments he made were positive. Maybe didn't win games, but definitely resulted in them coming back into the game. So I think that's, whether it's the staff that's coming up with him, but trust the adjustments that you guys are coming up with and do them.
Hmm. You know what? I would say other things just to be a bit different. The first one is his best improvement this season. I think that the communication, like the way he handled Joseph Martinez, and the big problem with Joseph Martinez is really good, really amazing. The way that he was able to switch his man management to adapt to a star player. I think that's a big improvement. It's hard to adapt to a star player. It's very, very hard. And we heard a lot of people saying that he has a lot of problems with veterans. But you know what? He showed that he was able to get back on very good terms with Joseph Martinez. And it feels that they did have a good relationship at the end. So for me, that's the biggest improvement. I think the biggest thing he needs to improve on, I think it can be explained the same way that you guys did, but I'm going to be a bit more specific. I think that in order to have results earlier in the season, you need to make sure that you have your starting 11 way earlier than now,
Mm.
than the last stretch of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I think after 15 games, 15 like 15 games is even too much, maybe 12 to 15 games, you need to know your starting 11. And again, that doesn't mean that you cannot rotate. Of course, you're going to always rotate. It's important. You have to keep the players fresh. But whenever you have an important game, the 11th, there shouldn't be any surprises when we see the starting 11. We need to know are Laurent Courtois' guys, and that's super important because when Laurent Courtois' guys are already chosen, you first of all, they are more confident because they know that they're relied on, and at the same time, it puts that extra layer of pressure, saying you have to perform because you're my guy, and at the same time, it shows to the other players that hey guys, if you want to play, you have to surpass those players. And at that point, everybody's set on how things are. And I think it creates something better going forward. And of course, you have some rotation players that play often, but not always at the same place. Like you need to make sure that the roles are defined way earlier in the season in order to have some success. So that's the other thing that I would say that he needs to improve. Next question. I think we have a question from Robbie that's here.
Mm-hmm.
What is our greatest need for 2025? And are there any realistic options that you think would fill that need? I'll start answering that question for once. I think we need the veteran presence. I think that it was nice to have Victor Wanyama in 2022 because he brought that experience on for all those this young team and those young players, and you need that. You need a bit more than that. Yes, you have Samuel Piet. Yes, you have Joel Waterman that hopefully will sign back, and we'll talk about that a bit later. Yes, you have the players like Nathan Saliba, that Jonathan Sirois, that yes are maybe still young, but have experience right now. They have national team experience. They have done some good things in the past couple of seasons. But I think having a player, yes, you have Joseph Martinez if he comes back, but I think having a player that has experience at a very high level. Victor Wanyama played the Champions League final, or was in the squad for his Champions League final. So having that player that everybody's like watched on TV and never really met, I think you need that. You need that experience, and it doesn't matter at what position. You need that in the locker room, and that's I think what's needed. Of course, nowadays in MLS, unless you're getting the best of the best, you're not going to sign a player that's really aging, that's like 36, 37, unless you're getting, as I said, the best of the best. So I
Antoine
would
Griezmann?
aim. Griezmann is I don't think that Griezmann will sign in Montreal, but that would be a dream come true, like for a lot of us. But honestly, I don't think that it's going to be a player that's going to be on an offensive player. I think it's going to be either a midfielder or a wing back or a center back. I think that's where we're gonna have that player. I hope that it's going to be in center back position, but let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. That's my opinion. I don't know if you guys have anything else to add.
If you forced me to pick a spot,
Yeah,
this is operating under the assumption that Joseph Martinez is back next year.
yeah.
It's either a left-footed center back. I agree with you. Either left-footed center back, or someone to replace Bryce Duke. And I think those are the only two spots because Nathan Saliba and Samuel Piet in the middle together, I can't justify bringing someone in.
Yeah, I agree.
But
But someone to replace
or they get benched.
But someone to replace Bryce Duke is going to be super expensive, and I don't think they're going to spend that much money.
We're in dreamland right now. This is all hypothetical, right? This is entirely hypothetical.
The question of Robbie was realistically. He said realistically. He didn't say dreamland.
Robbie, you should.
This guy doesn't answer any questions that are asked, man.
Exactly, man. Elias, come on.
No,
step up your game.
Realistically, given that in MLS, your 10s usually are so decisive and almost like second strikers, kind of like what Caden Clark is. I feel like the other side of the 10 role, which is the playmaker like Bryce Duke, is not as expensive. And I think a playmaker and someone to play in between the lines and not as a 10/9, but rather as someone who drops into play with Piet and Saliba more, and then kind of bring the entire team into the final third. That is like probably for me the biggest priority. Shit, yeah, let's get Paul Pogba. No, yes and no, right? Someone who is versatile enough to play in both positions, because we saw Bryce Duke play in both spots, but someone who is naturally more offensive minded. So, if
interesting,
for lack of a better player that can come to mind immediately, and you put it at Paul Pogba, right? Sure, maybe not necessarily his profile physically, but what he is asked of and what he does best. That would be realistically the top priority for me.
Andy, any other idea?
A proven wing back. I know you guys are going midfield attackers. I think we need a proven wing back to mentor the wing backs, because we're losing Lassi Rapalainen. We're going to lose Raheem Edwards probably.
We'll talk about
I'm not going to get too much into detail, but I think if assuming fantasy world that we lose them, I think what you want to bring is a proven wing back that knows the position, that can mentor the younger kids that are in that position, that are playing that position. So that's what I think.
Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't say no for a good wing back, an experienced wing back.
Such an important position in this scheme that they play.
I agree, 100%, 100%. Moving on, I think we have questions from Dr. Foot. He asked quite a few questions. First of all, he says, goodbye from Corbo on Instagram. Is it over for Gabriele with the CF? Has the club definitely opted for Waterman? Would it really be a big deal to lose Martinez? New MLS schedule considered, bad news for Montreal. Future of Kokaro. So we answered already question number 2 and question number 3. We'll answer a bit later question number 1. So we're only going to answer question number 4 for now, and a bit later Dr. Foot will answer your question number 1. Can you put back please the question so I can read it again? Future of Kokaro. Guys, I'm going to let Andy start because he's not a big fan. What do you think about the future of Matthias Kokaro?
I think he's gonna be back, but it's going to be as a backup role. That's what I think. That I think he is. I think he had I've heard from several different people that he lacked a little bit of professionalism and practice, and
Maxime Coman said it quite a few times.
And I've also heard it from other people that said that he's had issues with players. and that's a problem. And I think that maybe I want to Mr. Positive myself, being so positive. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say this was a transition year, and that he was learning maybe the language, the league, the people, whatever it may be. It's not easy for a Latino to come to this country and or this league, so I'm going to give him that benefit of the doubt. But if next year we see these kind of up and down behaviors, and one day he's scoring 2 goals while the next 5 he's spending it at the bench because he, again, lack of effort at practice or whatever it may be, then I just that's all I see. Because he I think when I released when I did my little Excel sheet to this morning with the salaries and everything, Maxime Truman had pointed out that if Joseph Martinez doesn't come back, Kokaro will be the highest paid player, and Wanyama either. Kokaro will be the highest paid player in CF Montreal. So that's saying something. As of today, with the salaries of today, and assuming there's no renewals and nobody else getting paid higher. But yeah, so that's you can be benching on decision day, and on your playing game, your third most expensive player in the roster.
Elias?
Are you gonna answer the question?
I think this is benefit of the doubt year, and you read him the riot act, basically, the Uncle Tua, in their postseason meeting, saying, because you remember at the beginning of the season, he was all world. He was loving his football. The team was loving him. He was loving the team. He was loving Montreal. Montreal was loving him. Everything was great. So he has to be more open to what Laurent Courtois asks of him, and the good things will come. I think the fact that the end of the year went so well, when people just did what Laurent Courtois asked of them, will kind of reinforce that. So I think he's coming back next year, but it's on very thin ice because he's shown that he's not scared to bench him, and not scared to bench, quote unquote, the most expensive player in the team, or the third most expensive player in the team, or Yankov and all these other people that earn over $500,000 a year. So
yeah. Okay, interesting. Honestly, I think that Matias Kokero hasn't shown the best version of himself. I still think that he can bring a lot to that team. I am very confident of that. The thing is, he needs to be a bit more mature. And I feel that this season is, he could either learn from it, or he can continue on the same path and then completely be forgotten very, very easily. But I don't know why I have a good feeling that he will bounce back and he will become important for that team. Let's wait and see. Okay, moving on. I think we answered all the questions. Let's talk about decisions.
I do want to add one more thing. Okay, so I told you guys that repeatedly other people have said that he lacks a little bit of professionalism in the field. But from what I'm also hearing is that, as you said, Hady, there is a big chance he bounces back because he is very conscious of his behavior. So
yeah.
So there is that chance. Anyways, just wanted to add that. But
for sure.
Because that's, I think, an important part of a player who is going through a difficult time, when they admit or don't admit that, you know what, it's on me or not on me. So
no, for sure. Moving on, let's look at the decisions that CF Montreal will have to make. So I'll give you a bit of before we talk about the decisions, we'll give you a small calendar of things to come during the off season and dates to come for the off season, because there's a lot of things that happen during the off season. First of all, on the 27th of November, it's the club deadline to exercise options on contract and submit bona fide offers. So that's the 27th of November. On Monday, December 9th, there's a trade window for half a day. Okay? So half a day trade window. The reason behind it is that a lot of teams use that before the drafts so that they can go have like round ones and round twos for the drafts. So that's the way, that's the reason why it's open for half a day. On December 11th, it starts the MLS College Showcase starts. So that's where college players come and do a series of tests in front of MLS coaches and MLS scouts in order to show what they're able to do on the pitch. Um, on the same day, it's the MLS expansion draft. So as you know, we have San Diego that's joining the team, the league next year. The expansion draft, they are allowed to take players from other teams. We'll give you details as soon as we're closer to the date. December 12th, free agency opens. So you can sign free agents at that time. So you're able to sign all the players that are considered as free agents. On the 12th of December, also, it's the end of year waivers. So if you don't want to give a contract to anybody, you can say, you know what, you're waived, bye bye, or you're able to maybe waive other players that are under contract too. And on the 13th of December, re-entry process draft stage one. So the stage one are the players that are at least 22 years old and has minimum of one service year. And then on the 19th of December, re-entry process stage two. Not very important because we never use either stage one or stage two here in Montreal. And last but not least, on December 20th, the Super Draft, the MLS Super Draft. So a lot of dates to remember, but the most important, the one for now, is the 27th of November. Are we exercising options or not? Let's look at the players that are at the end of the contract and to see which decision we will take. Let's try not to take too much time on each one. Maybe we'll give a yes, no, yes answer at first, and then I'll ask a question to one of you on each player, and you can answer as briefly as fast as possible. If we can play that game, I would love it. Let's start with the defenders and goalkeepers. Joaquin Sosa loan ends at the end of the season. Joel Waterman has an option of 1 year. Gabriele Corbo contract ends this year, and Logan Ketterer contract ends this year. Now, knowing what Dr. Foot has told us and watching the Instagram of Gabriele Corbo and his girlfriend or wife, they're all saying goodbye to Montreal. So, Andy, can we safely say that Gabriele Corbo will not be back with CF Montreal?
He is definitely out, yeah.
Good. Do you agree, Elias?
Yeah, I mean,
same for me. He's leaving 100%. I'll be very surprised if he comes back. Joel Waterman, Elias.
Yeah, 100%. He's back.
He did say at the presser that
discussions
and
things are moving.
Good. Things are moving forward. So, Andy, also, do you think that the option will be exercised, or do you think he will sign a new contract?
If I do 1+1, I think he will be renewed a new contract.
I think so too. Yeah. Elias?
If I do 1+1. That's just
same, yeah. Elias. Okay. Joaquin Sosa, is he coming back, Elias?
No, not as a lone player playing that little.
No, I don't think so either. And Logan Ketterer, guys, I'm gonna tell you something. For me, I want him back because he's here. He's a third goalkeeper. He's not making any noise. He's doing his job. I think that all the players really appreciate him. Why not? Honestly, why not?
Can I say it?
Yeah.
Statistically, the greatest goalkeeper in club history. Never conceded a goal. Perfect shutout record. 1 for 1.
He played one game, right? One game. Yeah.
Hady,
and Laurent Courtois said during the presser that he would have loved to give him his chance. He's the only player that didn't get his chance this year. So I think that he appreciates him too. Yes, and
no, but like everyone always says, they appreciate Logan.
Yeah.
You say he was kind of quiet, but if you're speaking from a business perspective, if you bring up the board again, he's getting paid more than Sebastian Breza with 0 games. Business speaking, regarded.
Yeah.
You know this club, Hady. We know this club.
Nah, I don't think it's a
It's a
problem.
non-issue in my eyes.
Non-issue.
Okay.
Non-issue for me.
I don't think he'll be
Non-issue.
back.
I'd be very surprised if he's not back. But let's wait and see. Moving on, midfielders.
I will say something. For some reason, I forgot to put Lassi Lapalainen in there, so I apologize for that, guys. I did forget to put Lassi Lapalainen in
It's
his.
okay. It's okay. We'll do it.
salary
It's
there.
more. Yeah. It's more. Yeah. Lassi Lapalainen is gone, right? We all agree on that.
think,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's out. Yeah, I think so too. Victor Wanyama.
Getting renewed. He's back.
We all think he's gone. Okay. No need to talk about it. Nathan Saliba. I want to hear you about that. He does have 2 years option. Do you exercise the option or do you renew his contract and give him a better salary to make sure that if a European team comes knocking,
Yep.
you can ask for more money?
No, you don't want a repeat of what happened with Mathieu Choinière. You lock it down now. It'll probably be cheaper than if you want to do it next year anyway.
A huge
You lock that
release clause.
as soon as possible.
How much salary would you give him?
He's making 140,000 now. At least 250.
That's
I
it.
think he's earned it. At least 250.
What? Okay. Andy?
I would give him whatever they were offering Mathieu Choinière. What was it? 450? 450 the last offer?
No, 600.
No, he wanted 600. And
The last offer was 600.
Yeah.
And he refused it because he thought that he was disrespected.
Or maybe max 500, but with a big release clause, like because I think European clubs are gonna come knocking soon. So,
I would start with at least 400, honestly, and I would go up to 600 because don't forget he's a national team player. So
yeah, and you look at what Samuel Piet's making
He's
as
young.
well, which is 430. I
Yeah.
think that's not at all beyond reason. I think that's
Yeah.
entirely fair. In
Okay.
fact, honestly, if they manage to get him for 400, that's a bargain with
Okay.
with the work he's putting in.
Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy,
action
what do you guys do?
action it. I'm
Just
not giving him
action
that.
the option.
I'm not
Yeah.
giving it. He hasn't proven.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 games, 0 goals, 0 assists with those stats. Actually,
No, he's got his year next year to prove himself.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect case to pick up an option.
You know what? I would sign him again because
Ooh.
right now he's going to be cheap. If I wait and he's better next year and he explodes next year, he's going to cost me so much more.
What? So you
Because-
want another 1+1?
I would sign him, 1+1. Yeah, and I would increase him to 250.
Okay.
And 1+1,
Wow.
250. You make sure that he doesn't. Even if he has a very good season next year, you still have him in your pocket for an extra year. So
Big vote of
that's what I would
confidence.
have done. Reggie Madrid, do you activate the option?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me too.
You pick up the option
Andy, why
and you
not?
immediately start looking for a left back for replacement.
Yeah. Not only I would pick up the option. Yeah, I agree. Andy, why wouldn't you sign
I
him
don't
back?
think I think his role would be more of a backup, and I don't know if he's ready for that to do here.
So in your opinion, Tom Pierce would be number 1?
I think so. I think he's a project for this club.
Yeah, I agree, but defensively he's bad.
I know.
We'll talk about that in the
postmortem, yeah.
postmortem, but
I don't know. Raheem Edwards is up and down. Like I don't know. That's
Yeah.
why I said earlier, if there's a veteran proven wingback that we would bring in for 2025, that will be my idea. And I'm just thinking that I don't know if Raheem Edwards is the best fit for this scheme, in my opinion.
Interesting. Moving on, strikers.
Forwards.
This is the fun one.
So, Jules Anthony Vilsan and Joseph Martinez. So, who wants to start?
1,000% renew Joseph Martinez. Jonathan Vilsain, I'd action it. Action it.
2 years is plenty. I agree.
But guys,
I think
if we
I'd
we
sign
action
Martinez
both
to a
of them-
1+1, honestly.
But if you sign both of them, then you cannot sign any more offensive players. You have too many forwards. Right?
Or send them
Doesn't
on the
mean
road.
everyone's staying though. Doesn't mean people aren't going to get
I
traded.
agree, but like you're stuck with those players. If there's no interest, you have five strikers here: Vilsa, Ibrahim, Kokero, Apoku, and Martinez. Five strikers. That's a lot, man.
A lot of
That's a
I
people.
think
lot.
some of these are gonna go though, Hari. That's why I said. That's why I'm betting on Julian was saying. I should have put their age because age is kind of an important factor in
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
But
yeah. Thanks, Sandy, for all those this Excel sheet. It's very very interesting and it helps a lot.
I'm gonna
Thank
start
you very
charging for
much.
these.
Okay, okay.
There's going
Yeah.
to be a
So
paywall.
interesting. Of course, we'll talk a lot more of that during the postmortem very soon. Next week, we will do our part one of the postmortem. And then the week after, the part two of the postmortem. We cannot do it in 1 week. It's impossible. And because we like to talk. Moving on, CF Montreal is done and dusted. Let's talk about the women's national team. They drew 1-1 against Spain. We're not going to talk too much about that, maybe 5 minutes, but let's go and look at that starting 11, Elias. Starting 11 with Kaylin Sheridan in goal, the back three of Buchanan, Gilles, and Jade Rose. On the left, Ashley Lawrence. On the right, Janine Becky. In the midfield, Simia Wujo and Jessie Fleming. And up front, Jordan Heidema, Evelyn Via, and Olivia Smith. On the bench, Marie-Yasmine Alidou, Gabrielle Carl, D'Angelo, Grosso, Leon, Prince, U, Regan, Deanne Rose, and Shelina Zadorsky. Guys, 1-1 against the world champions, Spain. That's a very, very good result. At the same time, it's kind of a new starting 11 that we're seeing. We all know that Diana Matheson joined the coaching staff too. Weirdly enough, it wasn't Spence that did the pressers. It was Diana Matheson. So we're not sure what's going on there. Who's the person that's really leading the pack? We have no idea. But I like the changes in the starting 11, even if we'll talk about the performance a bit later. But the changes are very positive, no, Elias?
Yes.
And
I
no.
really like what no, this time yes. This time only yes. I really like what I saw in moments, especially defensively. This is a reminder that Canada's back line is arguably one of like top 3 in the world when they're playing their best. And this is without a natural left back on top of that. So if a natural left back at that same level, because there are a couple, but at that same level as the other 4 comes into play, that is phenomenal.
Yeah.
In terms of just sheer power. But as a whole, damn, this game was sloppy. Right? And we
But
talked about this before the show. 1-1 against, again, admittedly, a heavily rotated world champion side. Still the world champions.
still,
And
yeah.
still the deepest team in the world. Still have all these accolades you could throw at them. You still had Alexia Putellas, you still have Pati Hijaro, you still have Atenea, you still have all these World Cup winning players that started for a World Cup winning team. And they handled them, right? Spain clearly was not as sharp as they usually are, but that's in large part due to the absolute shift that Jessie Fleming and Simi Wujo put in. Holy crap, were they on it? The work rate, the ball retrieval, everything was great. That being said, again, Canada very well could have won this game, and you know, I'm shocked at some of the chances that Evelyn Via missed. I'm very happy for Maria Sinas Aridou, who got her first international goal, but a draw against world champions is still a draw against world champions. I'm happy with that, but it could have and should have been a win.
Yeah, Andy, yes, we've been asking for Evelyn Vian to get a start for the national team for, I think, 3 or 4 years now. Finally, she's having a shot. How disappointing is it for her to not really score on those 2 chances? And have you already lost your faith in Evelyn Vian?
No, not yet. I mean, I mean, Spain clearly is a very, very good team. But I'll go with what Elias said that they were. It was just, admittedly, I only watched the second half because I was working the first half. But that it was a very sloppy game, and just as a collective, both teams just looked like they were trying to figure each other out. But no, Vian, I think is very energetic up top, and she brings a lot of creativity, and keeps defenders on their heels when she's after the ball. So it's a very interesting profile. That kind of energy, I don't think it's an energy that you can uphold for 90 minutes, at least unless you're incredibly fit. But she does bring a lot of energy, and it's something that I think drives this team forward, and it's encouraging to see.
Yeah. And even if, if on a bad day you're still able to give an assist, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
It's a bad
Yeah.
day, and
it was
you
a
are
very
the
good
one
assist.
that was a
Yeah.
great assist. So,
Yeah.
it's a bad day. I agree with you, Elias, but at the same time, you were able to be decisive too, even if you should have been
Absolutely.
scoring a couple of goals. At the same time, guys, and I really liked what the players have said after the game. And they said that defending and being very good defensively is the DNA of that Canadian soccer team, and they want to keep that.
It is.
Elias, what do you think about that? Are we going to have a Catenaccio Canadian women's national team?
Catenaccio is. You know what? Yeah.
Why not? Why
Right?
not?
Because when you think about it, you look at the profile of the attackers, you look at the profile of the midfielders, the way they like to play. Hell yeah, it's a Catenaccio.
Evelyn Vian can
And
be that Filippo Inzaghi,
100%. That's what she
Yeah.
does, right? That she's arguably one of the best poachers in Serie A. And, right, you surround her with pace and creativity. You have Jesse Fleming and Sime Wujo doing the work in midfield. And you have, again, a back line that can go pound for pound with any back line in the world and not come up short. Then hell yeah, they can absolutely play this Catenaccio and play it with success, I think. 100%.
Yeah.
Elias, I didn't like Vanessa Gilles' performance too much. I found her a little bit confused at times. With even though, like, again, Spain is a fantastic team. They were a really tough team to play against. But at times, I found her kind of displaced and confused playing. What'd you think of that performance?
There were some moments where I think she was a bit out of position. I think in general they recovered quite well. Again, that tends to happen when you spend 3/4 of the game locked in your own third. You're inevitably going to find some errors here or there. But I think as an overall performance, especially as a back three, with Kadesh Buchanan, Vanessa Gilles, and Jade Rose, who again is still in college, by the way, which is absolutely absurd. I think as a whole, as a three, they can be very proud of the shift they put in. Because again, Spain ended up sending I think the broadcast said they sent 30 shots. Right. Also, shout out both goalkeepers. Again, it's very nice to remember that yes, Kaylin Sheridan is amazing, but Sabrina D'Angelo is also a top keeper.
Very well.
And the fact you have this two-headed goalkeeping monster is super nice. But yeah, Vanessa Gilles could have had better moments. But I think as a whole, especially as a leader of that back line, I have no problem with how.
Yeah, and it's hard having a goalkeeper, a number one goalkeeper that's not really playing because she's not really playing with Arsenal. So
she still played really well though.
Yeah. No, 100%. Moving on, I have another question for you, and this time it will be for you, Andy. We talked about that midfield being very good. We talked about that defense being so important and one of the best in the world, as Elias said. We talked about Evelyn Vian being very interesting. We also talked about those wing backs, that we need a left wing back that's a bit better than that at the level. Right now we're playing Ashley Lawrence. That's usually a right wing back. We're playing her on the left. So I think we are able to manage with the left wing back with Ashley Lawrence there. But who are the other two players that you would put next to Evelyn Vian? Because let's say it like it is. Jordan Heidema and Olivia Smith are not exactly what you want to see up top. Olivia Smith, she's still very young, very inconsistent. Jordan Heidema has not been good with the national team forever.
She's not good, man. It's surprising. I really like what I saw from Adriana Leon because she plays that position, right? And I like her energy as well. I have liked this since I saw her play in the Olympics as well during the summer. I was very critical of her shots, but I do like her up front. That's the player I will put up there. I don't like why I don't understand it, and maybe she plays at a really good level at the club, but I don't understand why they keep starting Heidema because she doesn't, in my opinion, she doesn't put in that good of a shift, and I really like the Marie Yasmin Alidou, sorry, the one that scored the goal. That I like what she did up there too. So I will put those two players.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Okay.
Oh my god, and she's from Montreal.
She's also one
too.
for the future, though. Yeah, she's also one for the future too, though. She
is so aware. Like the way she plays is she's very much aware of what's going on around her and very quick to react. And I really liked what I saw from her. So.
Alidou right now is 29. She's not very young.
She really?
Yeah,
she just hasn't been around the national team all that much,
yes,
I guess. But
she hasn't. A bit like Chloé Lacasse, right? Because she's 29 too. So
yeah, but she's been around the national team for a while. It's just that
she's 31. She's 31. No, she hasn't been around the national team for a while. No,
the last couple of years she has.
Yeah, but she only has 36 caps. She's 31.
Yeah, but she's also just but we talked about this, right? Bev Priestman likes the forwards she likes.
I know.
And Chloé Lacasse is clearly not one of them, despite being, probably the best one-on-one dribbler on the team.
Exactly. So let's wait and see who's going to be chosen. But I think Olivia Smith can be that player. I think she's a bit inconsistent.
Off the bench, yes.
I agree with Adriana Leon. I would have liked to see Chloé Lacasse. Unfortunately, she's injured right now. So that's going to be very interesting going forward to see who's going to complete, I think, Evelyne Vian up front. The two players that are next to her are going to be super important. Are we going to see a Diane Rose? That could be very interesting too. Diane Rose with Adriana Leon. I would like to see that. Diane Rose, Adriana Leon, Evelyne Vian. I think I would like to see that once. So let's wait and see. That's it for tonight, guys. Again, very good result for the women's national team. We have a lot coming on during the off season, so stay with us. Keep on being here and keep on interacting with us during the show every Sunday at 7:30. Guys, as you all know, we always say it every week. We always say it. Our content is always going to be free. If you want to help us grow that content, feel free to join our Patreon page. Link in bio in our X account. That's it for tonight. Thank you very much for Andy and Elias, and we'll see you next week for episode 202 of The Ball is Round.